Right, welcome back to Business Today. The Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company has disbursed 8 billion shillings to refinance mortgages for low-income earners through the affordable housing plan. These as the company looks to disburse 5 to 7 billion shillings in 2023. Right now, Jim Bogo joins us from KMRC headquarters with more. Good afternoon, Jimmy.
Well, indeed, a very good afternoon to you too, Noah. Yes, as you rightfully said, we are currently at the KMRC offices within the Upper Hill, Nairobi, and this is where the headquarters is. And of course, the discussion we're going to have is largely on the issue of affordable housing. We know that this is one of the biggest agendas in this government. It was also one of the leading agendas in the last administration, and we want to understand where are we, what is happening in that sector, and especially as far as financing goes. And I'm joined by Johnson Oltecha. He's the MD and CEO of Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. Johnson, thank you so much for speaking to KTN. One of the things that I really want to get from you from the onset is when you look at the mortgage sector, what is your assessment so far?
So thank you very much. So, you know, the mortgage sector right now we are beginning to see tremendous improvements. When you look at 5 years ago, there has been very modest increases on mortgages. And that's because there were a number of challenges that was affecting mortgages. Now we have government which has very keen interest on mortgage or at least housing development, and that's why we have affordable housing. And we have KMRC which is focused on providing long-term finance for mortgage purposes. Now, we anticipate that there will be a significant shift in the offtake of mortgages in the country in the coming years. And that's because the environment under which mortgages currently are being originated are certainly being worked on. In fact, over the last 3 years, the base or the background under which mortgages will be offered has been worked in a way that now we're beginning to see shifts upwards. Yeah. So we anticipate that a lot more Kenyans will take houses, and that's because, number one, there's affordable financing. Number two, that financing is actually fixed compared to what we currently have on variable interest rates.
The biggest concern for Kenya, and we've had this debate and this argument from government saying that we want single-digit rates as far as mortgage is concerned. How far are we in achieving this?
We are already on single-digit rate territory. So for the last 2 years, since KMRC started lending, actually in 2020, we have ensured that we have achieved single-digit interest rates for the first time in our country, and that is continuing. So KMRC is lending to the participating banks and SACCOs, and the agreement we have with them is that they will lend within single digits, so that's less than 10%. All the institutions that have received KMRC funding and they're currently lending mortgages are actually on single digits.
Okay, and of course, we know that the number of primary mortgage lenders are also on the rise. We know that SACCOs are playing in this space. Banks are also trying to tap into that market. How many partners do you have from the banking and financial sector?
So we have in total 20 participating institutions. We have 9 banks, and we have 11 SACCOs. Now, we have so far lent to 8 of them. And these number of institutions are actually 4 banks and 4 SACCOs who have already received funding. In fact, we expect another 3 that are currently under process. Now, those institutions, of course, you remember that prior to KMRC coming in, the SACCOs were not primary lenders. So when KMRC came in and brought in the SACCOs into the equation, they are now primary lenders. And actually the intention was certainly to make mortgages available all across the country. You know, it's what is called inclusive growth. You know, you ensure that a lot more people, particularly at the lower end of the market, have access to mortgages.
You've talked about having 20 partners so far. And as far as disbursement is concerned, how much has KMRC issued to these partners to be able to give to customers? Are we talking millions? Are we talking billions? How much is it?
So far, we have disbursed 8.1 billion shillings, which is entirely for mortgages. And when you look at the spread of that, that means we have enabled slightly over 2,800 customers to be able to get affordable homes. Now, 8.1 8.1 billion shillings is certainly a good amount to have as liquidity in the financial system. And what we expect is that with the 8.1 billion shillings that is out there, that the financial institutions will actually leverage that money. So the expectation is not just to have the KMRC funds, but actually leverage a little more on that. So that, for example, we expect a 1.5 to 2 leveraging. You know, if we give you, for example, 100,000 shillings, then originate mortgages of 1.5 or 150 or 200,000 shillings. That's a leveraging that we're talking about, so that we scale it up. And when you do that, then you actually get the equivalent amount that I've used to originate the mortgage. So you get 1 billion shillings, you bring mortgages of 1.5 billion, or you bring mortgages of 2 billion, and KMRC will refinance at 2 billion.
All right, now, before I let you go, there are two questions that come to mind. And of course, the first question is on the issue of the ticket size. When you're talking to some of these partners, what is their ticket size on average? And also, are there measures that KMRC has put in place to make sure that the money that you give to these partners actually gets to the customers?
Absolutely. So starting from your last question, the intention, the only purpose of KMRC funding is for mortgage purposes. And we have agreements that we have signed with the financial institution for that purpose. And therefore, there is no issue about misapplication of funds, because it's only for one purpose. Now, so when we lend, first, you have originated a mortgage. And the mortgage is actually held as collateral by KMRC. So you see, you bring in a book, which we consider as collateral. So that means the money you get, you originate that mortgage, otherwise you'll not come back for another one, because then the funds will certainly become ineligible. So we have a number of those institutions, and you know, the funding we provide is basically for that purpose. When you look at the ticket size, now, we are talking about a maximum of 8 million shillings, particularly within the Nairobi and Nairobi metropolitan area.
All right, thank you so much, Bwana Authoritative. And of course, we will be continuing with this conversation, Noah. And I'm sure you're aware that the government is looking to build and to put up houses up to 1 million units by the end of the next 5 years. That is about 200 units every year. And of course, we'll continue with this conversation from this end for quite some time before we let Mr. Authoritative go back to work. And I will be giving you more feedback and more updates on what he tells us in our subsequent bulletins. But for now, back to you.
Thank you very much, Jimmy Mbogo from Kenya Mortgage Refinance Corporation. Now, small-scale fishermen across the coast region